what made you come? You say you come from
Family.
Scotland. Scotland.
I was only 12. I came with my family, my mother, my father, my brother, my sister. I was the eldest. My little sister was only 2 at the time, and she spent the whole plane ride from Glasgow to New York on the floor of the airplane. She was terrified.
Wow.
And everybody on that plane wished they were not sitting beside her. She was on the floor. And she's still here. She lives in Los Alamitos with her husband.
What made you, well, you were 12, but what made your parents decide to want to move?
Well, he was a prisoner. These are long stories. He
Yeah,
was a
yeah.
prisoner of war in Germany for 5 years.
He was your father?
Yeah, in World War II.
He was a prisoner of war?
For 5 years in Germany.
Wow, tell me about that. That's got to be interesting.
Dunkirk. He was captured.
No way! He was in Dunkirk?
He was captured on top of the cliffs. He claimed, I said, how did you get captured, Daddy? You're such a fighter. And he said, well, I shot at the bushes. I thought it was the Germans, but it was a cow. So it gave me my position away. So they got him, they captured him. They didn't shoot him. Thank God they didn't shoot him.
Oh my God! So he got captured because he shot a cow.
No, he just gave his position away.
Right, exactly. But he thought it was an enemy, and so he shot a cow, and then it boom gave his position away. Wow.
And so he escaped 3 times and ran or walked or whatever across Europe from prisoner of war camp to get to the English Channel to escape. Well, they caught him all 3 times and put him back into the prison.
Wow, tell me more. So he escaped 3 times. How old was he at the time?
And guess what he did? He had just met my mother in the Locarno Ballroom downtown Glasgow, just right before the war broke out. And they were all taken. They were all teenagers, and they were all taken to war. His new girlfriend, her whole family, his family, everybody went to war. Literally, they just weren't thinking about it. They were stationed. My mother was stationed in Africa, North Africa, because that's where the support system was for the war to protect Britain and the rest of the world, to tell you the truth. And anyway, it's an interesting story. Her brother and sister, 2 of her sisters and 1 brother, all went to war and met their future husbands and wives. And it so happens that 2 were from Canada. The 2 men, one was a fighter pilot, another one was I don't know. And anyway, so they ended up, my Aunt Irene and Aunt Laura ended up in Canada and raised their family. And so actually, no, my uncle and one of the sisters ended up there. And there was only 1 sister besides my mother who ended up back home in Glasgow. And when the war ended, they released him. His name was Bobby Jones, not the golfer.
Okay, I was like, okay.
This is the other Bobby Jones. And they released him, and he went home, and he knocked on the only place he knew to find her, in hopes that she would be there and alive. And her mother opened the door, and he said, well, hello, is Mary home? This is Bobby Jones. I just met her before the war broke out 5 years ago. And my grandmother called, she had a nickname, Myra. Myra, it's Bobby. What is that? Is it a romantic story or what?
Oh my goodness, they must have been.
I was born 9 months later.
And you were born 9 months later?
Yeah.
Because of that. What a that is, you know what? They can't write this shit. I think I gotta write a script about that.
I have friends that are in the movie business say, you should, and I said I would call the movie The Other Bobby Jones. And that, but of course, people who don't know who the hell the real Bobby Jones is wouldn't even know what that meant, but a lot of people do.
That's how your parents met and then got you.
Dancing, see, back in those days, they called them ballrooms, great big dance halls. They have a few left here too. Well, they used to. When I was a teenager, down in Balboa and Newport Beach, they had the Rendezvous Ballroom and other places, big, huge rooms, and everybody just went around and around and around, dancing. Huge rooms. I'm talking huge. Like this whole intersection, up to here and down to past that sign there, huge.
And how long did your parents stay together?
Until they died. She died first, then he died.
How may I ask how many years was it total? Like what, like 30, 40 years?
You mean that they were married?
Yeah, the time that they were married all the way up to their death.
They got married in 45, right after the war. I was born in 46, and we came to this country in 57. And they remained married until, well, they're still married. They never got divorced. So she died when she was 56 of a heart attack. I was only 30.
What were some of the things that do you see that, that they taught you growing up, coming in from 12 years from Scotland into the U.S.? Was there any type of culture shock that you experienced,
No.
No?
No, just the heat, because coming from Glasgow, it's cold, and rainy and most of the time. We came here, that was the reason, because my father was a prisoner of war, and it got the coldness being kept like an animal in Germany for 5 years. Kind of worked on him. So that's why we moved here.
What did
you couldn't take the cold anymore.
Oh my goodness, yeah. I reckon I don't like the cold either. Yeah, it's just not a fan of it. Let's say. What did your mom and your dad do while they were here?
Well, he could do anything he wanted. He asked me, did he ever give us any advice? My daughter, I have a picture of him. My daughter sitting on his lap when she was around 7 or 8, and I was there at the time he said this to her. He gave her a cuddle and a kiss, and he said, "You sweet baby, do you realize that you can be anything you want to be?" Because he was anything he wanted to be. It was like, wow, that's great advice. Nobody ever told me that. Daddy.
Did he have any more kids, or was it just you? Have any brothers or sisters?
No, he was just me and, well, I don't know what happened in Germany. But, as far as I know, he was only married once, and he had 3 kids, and I was number 1 born.
Wow.
Yep, 9 months after the war ended.
That's incredible.
I know. Who would have thought? I mean, it's hard to wrap your mind around. Who would have thought you spend all that time? And she was not home either. She was in Africa. She was in the ATS.
What is the ATS?
It's the women's version of the Army. She didn't have to fight or anything. She was backup, doing all the paperwork. And she was in Nairobi most of the time, Kenya. And it's amazing. I can't even imagine 5 years.
That's a long time.
And you just met, and he could have done anything, like he told my daughter, he could have done anything he wanted to do. But what he ended up, to answer your question, in our country, Scotland, before we came here, after the war, he just opened a shop. He sold fish. He bought a truck, and he drove all the way up to Eyemouth and Aberdeen, which is the northeast coast of Scotland, way up in the north. And he would drive up in the morning. Took him about 2 or 3 hours. He'd get up at 2 in the morning, get the fresh fish, put it in his truck, and drive down and put it in his shop and sell it. And he went from there to being one of the most sought after general managers of car businesses here in this country. He ran, like, you probably wouldn't recognize these names, but Angela Chevrolet, Robert Loud Ford in Pasadena, Maywood Bell Ford in Bell, and all these places. He was just a natural.
Wow.
You know, he was just, everybody loved him. And they wanted to buy all his cars. Bobby, we trust you. If you tell me it's a good deal, where do I sign?
Did he ever experience nightmares, shell shock from war, having difficulty?
I don't know. He never talked about it. I just know that a lot of times when he wasn't working, different times of the day, he worked all different times. I'd walk into the room and he'd be sitting in his big chair with his arm around his head and one finger in his left eye, rubbing his eyebrow with his eyes closed. And I know that's what he was thinking about.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. He was having
He
a
never,
moment.
because anytime I ever asked him, he'd just say, you don't want to know. You don't want to talk about that. And I told a boyfriend of mine what he said, that he shot a cow in the bush, or he thought it was a cow. And he said, yeah, little girl, that's what he told you. You know, that's what he told his little number one girl. He wouldn't say, oh yeah, I slaughtered 10 Germans, or, you know what I mean?
I see. So he didn't want to tell you. Okay, so, but it was true. The version about the cow, that was like a true story.
I'll never know.
Oh, wow. Okay, so now you'll never know. So he told you that about, he shot the cow, but he told the boyfriend. You didn't ask the boyfriend? Your boyfriend?
I had a boyfriend, yeah, but one of my brothers years ago, you know, and that's what he said, you know, when he was asking me, similar to you, you know, curious about the war. And I told him, and he said, no, he was protecting you. He would never tell you the truth about that.
Right. Movie? Did you get to see the movie? I don't know if you thought anything of it, but it was. Do you know there was a movie called Dunkirk?
Oh, you haven't seen the movie?
No, I've seen it. I'm asking you if you saw it. If would you? That must have been. What was your reaction to seeing the movie? Given what you.
Daddy. That's all I could think of is poor Daddy. You know that he had to interrupt his life, or anybody who goes to war, their life is interrupted. You know, to go and defend their freedom.
Right.
And but I was astonished to more recently than any other time, astonished to find out that most of the people, men especially, who went to war, were just teenagers.
Yeah.
And they still are. I saw a TV thing the other day on the news, and it shows you all these new recruits just they're in line, but it's not like, it's not like that. They were just all in line walking.
Yeah.
And I look at their little faces, I'm like, oh my God, you're kids. And then I realized, well, so was your father. He was only 17 or 18 when he went to war.
I do find it interesting how back in those days, you know, at that age, you were going to war. And now, 18-year-olds in this generation, their feelings get hurt because people say mean things. And then back in your days, they're out there, you know, storming the beaches of Normandy for almost certain death. And now, these generation of kids are just spoiled and just effeminate. It's just they're everything, safe spaces, and I need somebody to protect my feelings. It doesn't prepare them for life at all with that type of victim mentality. It doesn't toughen them up in the early age, you know. Granted, there are other ways for those teenagers to get some character without having to lose their lives, for crying out loud. To go to war, you know. But I mean,
because a lot of them. I'm a member of the American Legion in Redondo, on the Ladies Auxiliary, and the whole Legion. We raise money to help the vets and their families. We give our time, like we go down to the Veterans Hospital in Long Beach and play bingo for the psych wards. They've been traumatized during the war, and these are just people, young people. I mean, you know, they're not like my dad was, but they're already, excuse my French, fucked up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And so we have to be careful as we go in there and we take fruit and vegetables and Cokes, all kinds of stuff for them to eat. Not that they're starving, but it's just a treat, you know.
Yeah.
This is the party, it's bingo. And then we pay them money. When the winner always gets like $2, depending on how much money we have at that moment. And they love it. Super.
Avril, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for sharing the story with me.
And good luck to you for the rest of your life, where you're going to be a winner. Anybody with curiosity, anybody, I don't care who they are, you just build it up.
That's right.